Hi everyone, welcome to week 10 of your Introduction to Computer Concepts course. Um, just a few reminders before I go through this week's material. First is that you need to make sure that you have all of your material completed by the end of the day on Thursday. So make sure that you are going back and looking to see what have I not turned in, anything like that. The only things that I cannot accept late are discussion posts. So anything that shows as a 0 that's not a discussion post. So assignments, quizzes, those can all still be completed and turned in. So make sure that you go back and look for those. Great way to increase the number of points that you have before the end of the course. So you'll want to make sure that you do that by the end of the day on Thursday. The other thing that I want to remind you about is to make sure that you go through and look at the material for this week before you take the final exam, because that material will be included on the final exam. In addition, make sure that you go back and look at the previous weeks, because as with the midterm, we will be going back and adding some of those older materials from previous weeks on that final exam. So make sure you go back and look at some of the material that I have presented previously. Now on to this week's material. This is the last week. In this particular week, we're going to be looking at the different types of application software. Now last week we looked at operating software, and this week we're looking at application software. And if you remember last week, I talked a little bit about the difference between the two, how you need the operating software to tell the application software kind of what to do. So that's kind of where we're picking up, kind of where we left off, so to speak, with last week's material. So this week, when we look at the different types of application software, keep in mind that when we're referring to applications, these are just specific tasks. So these are things that allow you to do specific tasks. Probably some of the most common types of application software are going to be the software that you use for word processing. Now, most of us probably are using Microsoft Word, although I have seen some students say that they haven't been able to purchase Microsoft Office. There is another type of software, word processing software, I should say, that is available for free out there on the internet. So if you go to openoffice.com, you can download free software. It works almost identically to Microsoft, and it's a great tool if you don't have access to Microsoft Office products. So openoffice.com is where you'll want to go. Not only do they have word processing software, they will also have something similar to Excel, which is spreadsheet software. So word processing software, allows you to do all kinds of things, including spell check, adding in pictures, things like that. Spreadsheet software is set up in a method so that you have cells in rows and columns, and you can do tons of formulas and all kinds of sorting and so on and so forth. This is actually what I work with on a daily basis, is spreadsheet software. There's not a day that goes by that I don't have a spreadsheet open, and I'm working on it with my particular job. Then we have database management software, where you actually have specific records and then different fields within those records so that you can keep track of maybe a patient list, a customer list, things like that. And then you can use that database to pre-populate, different types of letters that you might send out, or mailings, things like that. So database management software is another very important type of application that you may run across. And then these are just a few others. Obviously, these are not inclusive of every single type of application that's out there. There are hundreds and hundreds of applications. Presentation software is something like, and of course, I use Microsoft Office products. So when I talk about the different types of applications. Those are the ones I'm referring to. So PowerPoint would be the presentation software that you might be using. Multimedia authoring software. So these allow you to create digital and audio files. Actually, Screencast-O-Matic, which is what I use to create these presentations that I put out there for you, is a type of multimedia authoring software. And then of course there's things like schedule keeping and appointments. I use Outlook, and I have a scheduling program that I use within that. And then of course, things like website creation. And again, this is not all of the different applications that are out there, but these are just some of the top ones that you'll see used. And again, if you have any questions about this week, please make sure you let me know. Please make sure that you address any missing work that you might have before the end of the day Thursday. And it's been a pleasure having you in my course, and have a great week.